Hello, I'm Teacher M, and today I'm going to show you how decimals are easy to work with, and that decimals can be related to our real life situations. And so I'm going to show you that our one whole tile here can be compared to our money, $1. Okay, so if you have one whole tile, I'm going to say this is my $1. And I can write it as 1.0, $1. So I don't have anything behind it, behind the decimal point, but just 0 cents. But I have a whole dollar. Now, if I have to divide my one whole dollar, each part will be 50 cents, and everybody agrees with me. And that means that 50 cents is half of my dollar. So that 50 cents can be written as 1/2 in fraction form. Okay, so I can show you that I have 50 cents and now I still equal to $1. Okay, but what about if I further divide my $1 into smaller parts, not just 2 parts? So let's say I divide it into 4 parts. That means I'm gonna get 1/4 of $1. I'm dividing my $1 by 4 parts. So how much will each part be? I have an idea that it's going to be smaller than 50 cents. And as you can see, 1/4 is smaller than 50 cents, which is 1/2 of a dollar. So 1/4 will be, of course, everybody will say it's half of that 50 cents. Half of that 50 cents is 25 cents. See that? So if I have two 25 cents, I will have 50 cents. Which is equivalent to half of $1. But then I need more of this to equal to $1. And I know the other half, which is 50 cents, will also equal to 25 cents. So if I have 4 25 cents, it will equal again to $1. Okay? You see the relationship? So if I cut that 50 cents further into a half, I will have 25 cents. Same thing with the other 50 cents. So that 1/4 of a dollar will be 25 cents. Because I cut it into smaller parts, which is more parts, 4 parts. Earlier, I just cut it into 2 parts, so I still have each part bigger. Then, compare it with cutting it into smaller parts, which is 4 parts. Each part will be just 25 cents. So what about if I cut or divide my one whole dollar into smaller parts again? More parts, okay? So let's say I'll cut it into 5 parts. Can you see that 1/5 will be smaller than 1/4? Meaning 1/5 of a dollar will be smaller than 25 cents for sure. Okay, because I'm cutting it into much more parts, smaller parts, which is 5 parts. So how much will it be for each part? So let's see if you'll be able to guess. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of this cents in order to equal to $1. You'll have an idea that each 1/5 is not 25 cents, but it's going to be smaller. So how much each 1/5 will be? Should be 20 cents. Okay, so each part here is 20 cents. Now, 20 cents, whether you have the 0 on the hundreds place or not, it's okay, as long as the 2 is on the tenths place, meaning I have 2 tenths cents. Okay, I have 2 10 cents, meaning I have 20 cents. If I have another 20 cents here, 20 cents, 20 cents, and 20 cents, that means I will equal to $1 back. Okay? So, imagine if I cut my $1 further into smaller parts. Okay, meaning I will have more parts, just like 12 parts. So that means I will be cutting $1 further into smaller parts, meaning each part will be much smaller than 20 cents, as you can see. Okay, now Imagine if I cut my $1 into 100 pieces, okay? And that's possible. And this will show us the 100 pieces of $1. So how much will be each square here if the whole thing is my $1 and I cut my $1 into 100 pieces? How much will be each square? You will have an idea that it will be much smaller than 25 cents or 20 cents. Now, this is just to show you once again a whole bar can be divided into two parts. So it's 1/2. And into three parts, so it's a third. Each of them is a third. You can see that 1/12 is much smaller than 1/10. Now the other type of diagram that will help us further understand fractions will be the fraction circles. I have two whole circles here. It's like having $2. Now let's leave $1 up and the other is half. Now I have a mixed number, 1 whole and 1/2. Now when I add 1/4 to my 1/2, I will have now 1 whole and 3/4. What about if I have all the 1/4? So now I have 4/4. Now I have 1 whole and another whole. That equals to 2 wholes. Right now, I have 5/10, which is equivalent to 1/2, as you can see. And so I can say I have 1 whole and 5/10, or 1 whole and 1/2. Alright, if I fill it with 10/10, that's going to be another whole. Therefore, I now have 2 wholes. Okay, now let me ask you this first. Let's say you are given a chance to get a portion of a pizza. From which pizza are you gonna get a piece from? From pizza A or from pizza B? Go ahead and make a discussion with your brother or sister or your mom and dad as to why you are choosing to get a pizza from A, or as to why you're choosing to get a piece of pizza from B. Make sure on your discussion that you include terms like fractions, how many parts, and which part is bigger and which part is much smaller, and explain why. Okay? Go ahead, make the discussion. So the first pizza, pizza A, were divided into 4 parts, while pizza B is cut into 8 parts. So on pizza A, if I get 1 piece, I can write it as 1 out of 4 total pieces as a fraction. While on pizza B, I can write it as a fraction 1 piece out of 8 total pieces. So if I'm the one you have to ask, I will get a piece from pizza A because 1/4 is greater than 1/8. Because it's obvious that if you cut a pizza into more pieces, then each piece will be much smaller. Now, when we're trying to change a fraction to a decimal, it is so important that you pay attention to the place value of each digit, especially the values behind the decimal point. Now let's try to change 1/2 into a decimal. Remember that the top number is your numerator, and the denominator is the bottom number. The strategy that we have to always remember and use is top in, bottom out, or what we call TIBO or TIBO. So here, the top number goes inside the division box, and the bottom number, denominator 2, goes outside. Since 2 cannot go into 1, there should be a 0 on top of the 1. And that will be the 1's place value. Now we're ready to add a decimal point. And so, before adding a 0 to make that 1 bigger than the 2, those decimal points should be in place. The other point just straight on top. That decimal point on the top will be part of your answer later. Without the decimal point, your answer will be wrong. Now 10 divided by 2 is 5. And that 5 should be on the tens place value, just on the top of the 0 you just added earlier. Now multiply the 5 by your divisor 2, then subtract down below. 10 minus 10 will leave you no remainder. Therefore, 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. Just like what we've talked about earlier with the fraction bars. Remember that half of your $1 is 5/10 or 50 cents. So it can also be written as 0.50 or 0.5. Just like how it's written on the griddable on the left side of the screen. Remember the one whole fraction bar earlier that we kept on dividing into smaller pieces. Let's go ahead and find out how much will be each piece if a dollar is divided into 100 pieces. So let's say this picture is our whole $1 and we're trying to divide it by 100 pieces. How much will that little square be that is going to be part of $1? Now let's go ahead and show our work by using the strategy top in, bottom out, or TIBO. The top number 1, the numerator, goes in, and the 100, the divisor, the denominator, goes out. We know that 100 cannot go into 1, so we add a 0 on top of the 1. Now don't forget the decimal point and straight up. Now you can add 1 0. 10 divided by 100 cannot be, so that will be a 0 on the tens place value. Now we'll make the 10 bigger by adding another 0. 100 divided by 100 is 1. That will be on the hundredths place. Now multiply. 1 times 100 is 100. Now subtract down below. 100 minus 100 is 0. Therefore, if you divide $1 by 100 pieces, each piece will be 1/100ths or 1 cent. Just make sure that the 1 is on the hundredths place value. If you write it on the wrong place value, then the value will change. It will be 10 cents instead of just 1 cent. Always pay attention to the place value. Now there you have it. I know you got this. As long as you practice on your homework, then you can do it. Now don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our video, especially if you learned something today. Thank you for watching and see you in class.